move on to the next topic, because this is what we're going to focus the rest of our time on. So in our, as we talked to folks last year and planned this year, one of the key priorities we identified is family housing. So what I mean by that is a lot of families in California are increasingly finding that it's impossible to either buy a home or to find an attainable rental property that fits the needs of a family, right? So, if you have kids, you probably do not want to live, unless it's literally your only option, in like a studio apartment downtown, right? Because it's nice to have your kids in one room, and actually, when you put them to bed, to be able to move to another room, right? To be able to, so they can sleep and you can do other things, right? The problem is that home ownership and also just the availability of family housing has really steeply declined in California over the last few decades. So in 1980, people aged, who here is aged 25 to 35? Raise your hand. Okay, so about half of us. Californians aged 25 to 35 in 1980, about 40%, so not the majority, but that's a huge number of people own their own home. By 2000, that had declined to 25%, and then in 2021, it had dropped to 16%, right? So there's been a precipitous decline in how easy it is for young folks. I don't have data, so I got this from a report that was published in like 2022 or 23. You could probably go look this up, like in the Americans Community Survey. I would be shocked if it had gone up significantly. Maybe I could see it going up or down by a couple percentage points, but I would suspect, if anything, it probably has gone down since then because of interest rates being so high, which isn't really something the state controls. But the corresponding part of that is there's something called the age of prevalence, which is like how old do you have to look before 50% of people own their own home. So in 1980, that age in California was about 32, I believe. Whereas the other states, it was about 30, right? So Virginia, Texas, I just picked those as other states that are largish and have a good number of people. So today in California, that has increased to 49. So you have to, because usually older people are more likely to own homes, but you have to look all the way at people over the age of 49 before 50% of people in California own their own home, right? Whereas in Virginia and Texas, that number has also gone up, but it's gone up to like 37, right? So 50% of people who are 37 in those states own their own home, right? So huge disparity in how expensive it is to buy a home in California versus other states. And then this is just a graph showing, like, one of the things, putting aside even home ownership, like one of the things when people say, what are the most important things for you in looking for a house? One of the most important things for families is bedrooms, right? So this is saying people who have kids, like if the majority of them really want a third bedroom in their apartment. People who don't have kids, it's less important to them, right? And so there have been various studies to try to show that what do families look for in housing. Home ownership rate's pretty high, but this is another piece, right? Like having more 3-bedroom units is really, really important, that are attainable, is really, really important to families because it unlocks, again, having more kids, having more comfortable living arrangements. It's not the most important thing, but it's very valuable. The problem is that, one, we're not building a lot of housing, period. And two, historically, the way that we built family housing in LA was to build a lot of single-family homes. So this is by decade, right? How much, what neighborhoods, what the most common type of home was to be built. So in the 40s and 50s, the vast majority of neighborhoods in Southern California were building mostly single-family homes. And what has happened is we've kind of run out of land, right? We've sprawled out to like Palm Springs, and once you get to Palm Springs, it's really hard to go further without like being too far for people to actually go find a job. So today, most neighborhoods in Southern California are just building no housing at all, right? So more than 50%. And we still have a good number that are building single-family homes, but it's much smaller. And then crucially, too, there's a type of housing called missing middle housing, which is things that are between like large apartment buildings and your traditional, what you see across the street, detached single-family home. So those are things like townhouses, right? Duplexes. I live in a duplex, right? Courtyard buildings, where everyone is on one piece of land, but there's some space in the middle for like kids to run around. And on most lands, and the amount that's being produced of that has actually gone down each decade. So this orange slice is like what neighborhoods were building missing middle housing is actually steadily, even as the number of single family homes has declined, also the amount of missing middle housing has sharply declined, right, in LA. A big reason for that is that most residential land, this is LA County right here, this is Orange County. The pink is all the geography on which all you can build is a single family home on a large lot, right? You have a question?
I was gonna make a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Jacob and I were talking earlier. We're like, wouldn't it be great if our church like bought a building like this and we all like lived together and like shared space, shared rooms together, or it was like where we live together. And I think of like the courtyard apartments is like the closest option to like getting to that.
Yeah.
We're not all in one house, but like we're all like right next to each other.
Yeah. And in most places in LA, it would be illegal to build that kind of courtyard apartment.
Yeah.
Because you have to build a single family home. So Alex and I were actually sharing at West LA, and we talked about what if you could have 4 families that lived in like a courtyard apartment. Everyone's like, oh, that would be really nice. Like our kids could play together. We could like go cook or go have a conversation with our spouse while one parent like watches all of the kids. It would take a lot of pressure off of parenting. But again,